What we do here is go back, 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 back.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Quarantine Karaoke. Ooh, let me get my hair in front of me. Yes, I worked hard on it. I took a shower today, so gotta display my shower hair. So, anywho, so today is sort of the podcasty singing type of day for Quarantine Karaoke, and that is Theatrical Opera Thursdays. And so basically what that means is instead of singing a whole bunch for the entire hour, I pick an opera or a composer, and I sort of give you the fun rundown version of what the heck is going on, why we should even care, or why any of this stuff is beautiful and amazing. So last week we talked about Puccini's. Yeah, I just got lipstick all over the score. Ah! It's fine. Everything will be fine. So last week we talked about Puccini's Suor Angelica. You can see the title right there. And we talked about how she was, how basically it's a very short opera. It's only about an hour long. And it's about a nun who basically gets told by her aunt that her... so it's about a nun who goes into a nunnery for 5 years after having a child out of wedlock. Her aunt comes, says, "Hey, you need to sign these papers so that you aren't a pain in my side anymore." And Suor Angelica's like, "No, I don't want to sign the papers and sign my life over." Blah, blah, blah. And the aunt says, "Well, guess what? Your son's dead." And then she goes like, "Oh my gosh, my son's dead!" And in grief, she signs the papers. And yes, that's exactly how it goes. And then after singing a beautiful aria, she decides to kill herself with poison. But she's redeemed by the Virgin Mary in the end because she only killed herself so that she could be with her son again, because that's how badly she wanted to see her son. So that's like a very, very short and condensed version of Suor Angelica. We talked more about the nuances, about the characters, and about the music last week, so I'm not going to go over them right now. But I figured, sort of as a recap, I would do the aria for you. Suor Angelica's aria, probably the most famous piece of music to come out of this short little opera. And that is Senza Mamma. And as you can see, I have it all highlighted and all of the stuff because I worked really hard on it. Why is this down? I worked really hard on it because I was cast as Suor Angelica, so... yeah, hopefully now you can hear me now. I've turned the gain up on the microphone. So I will now be doing Senza Mamma from Suor Angelica as a quick recap of last week's theatrical opera Thursdays. And then we will continue on into our new opera, and it's again another Puccini opera, but I don't want to spoil it right now. But I'm already spoiling it by showing you my screen. So anyway, so let's do Senza Mamma. Beautiful. Oh, I need to turn it up. Hold on 1 minute. I have to fix all of these things because I had changed everything, because I actually am thinking about possibly moving locations and changing into my room. But so there's a lot of stuff that's kind of in progress right now. But anyway, so let's try this one more time. from So Angelica. Forgive my mistakes. It's been a little bit since I've sung this. But so she sings that aria right after the aunt has left her and told her that her son has died, and she sings this to her son, asking him when can she die in order that she can see him again. But again, we went through all of that last Thursday, and I might actually come and revisit Suor Angelica later on another Theatrical Thursdays because a lot of people don't know about it, and it's a great opera. So, putting Suor Angelica away. So, we put her away, and now I figured I kind of flip-flopped between a couple of operas to do for today. I thought about doing maybe some composers, of art song composers, or maybe, of course, we could always do Mozart, or maybe even Beethoven, like bigger names that people knew. But I figured it might be a good idea to stick with Puccini today, because I wanted to talk about one of his most famous operas, because I don't really know which one is his most favorite opera, but this one is definitely one of his most favorite operas because it was actually turned into a musical, and a lot of people know this musical, and that musical is Rent. And a lot of you people know it probably as the musical where 525,600 minutes. Oh, hello. I see. Thank you. Yep. Okay. So we're gonna put that up. See, I have my sound engineer here, so so yeah, definitely during the talking bits I will turn up the volume, but I want to kind of turn the volume down when I sing because obviously it gets pretty loud. So anyway, so a lot of you know Rent. It's the musical where you have like the 525,600 minutes, 525,000 journeys to plan. That one. We'll sing that at the end because that's a fun song. And I know I am putting the sound engineer to work. She's like, I'm technically the sound engineer, but she's like listening to it and being like, no, like you're way too loud or whatever. So she lets me know what's going on. Anywhoozle, so I figured we'd stick in the Puccini direction and we would talk about La Boheme, which a couple of the more famous arias can be found in this book. The arias for soprano. And a soprano, all that means is a higher voice. It's usually a woman, can be a man. Very rare nowadays. It was very common in I think it was like the 1600s and the 1700s for men to be sopranos, but there's a very special reason. And that's because they kind of made it that they kind of castrated men back in the day to make them sopranos. It was weird. We don't do it anymore. It's bad. So, anywhoozle. So that's all that a soprano is. It's just a higher voice. It's the one that screams a bunch. And it's usually a woman. It can be a man, because you can naturally be a male soprano, but they're pretty rare. So that's all that a soprano is. And as you can tell, I've tabbed a bunch of these. So we'll be talking about La Boheme today. And again, the whole point of Theatrical Opera Thursdays is just to introduce you guys to opera. I am by no means a scholar. I am by no means a professional in the terms of opera history or opera lore, I guess you could call it. But I am an enthusiast. I'm a professional musician and singer, and I absolutely love the crap out of this music, and so I just wanted to share it with you. So just know, if you're curious about anything I talk about, you can always go research it more, but I am not a professor. This is more just for funsies. So, on to La Boheme. So, a lot of people kind of know the story of La Boheme thanks to Rent, but a lot of people don't really know the actual story of La Boheme, because Rent takes like the bones of La Boheme and transforms them into something very different. And so the themes at the end of Rent are vastly transformed than the themes of La Boheme. So just take that with a grain of salt. So in La Boheme, and also, by the way, fun fact, you can actually watch La Boheme and Rent on YouTube for free. So you got like Opera Lovers down here is doing the entire full opera of La Boheme with Pavarotti. You can watch that. And also Rent you have the entirety of the Rent musical, here on Broadway in HD, and you can watch it there. So if you ever just want to watch some opera and some Rent, I guarantee you can find it on YouTube. So anyway, so La Boheme. Okay. La Boheme starts, I believe, in France. Is that the setting of the play, of the opera? I just want to make sure. Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes, I am so good. It's set in Paris. So La Boheme set in Paris, and it technically takes place in 1830. But a lot of opera companies will take liberties with that, and they'll update it and do other things with it. But initially, it is set in 1830. And our main characters that you really need to know about are Marcello, 1, Rodolfo, 2. So those are our two main characters, pretty much. Those are our two male main characters. There's a bunch of other characters going around. You kind of need to know about them, but really and truly, they're not important. So it's mostly Marcello and Rodolfo. In terms of plot. Singing-wise, they're very important, but in terms of plot, they're not that important. Anyway, so the main thing you need to know about Marcello is that he's a painter, and Rodolfo is a bit of... he's pretty poor, too, so if I remember what he does... Let me just look, and... Because I get them all. There's a bunch of people who do like a bunch of crazy things in this, and I think Rodolfo is the person who pawns things. So he's or he's a writer. Either way, what you have to understand about Rodolfo and Marcello is that they live together in an apartment building, and they are dirt poor. They can't afford bread. Okay, these men are poor because obviously they have artistic jobs, so they obviously don't have anything to eat because they're artists, and artists are notoriously poor. And so that's what you need to know about them. And it's the middle of winter. So being poor and sharing an apartment building in the middle of Paris in 1830 means that you're probably freezing. It's not a fun time for Rodolfo or Marcello. They are down on their dumps, very much... Can't afford any food, can't afford heat, they can't afford rent. Hey, what? So that's kind of them, but they're not sad. They're very happy-go-lucky characters. They understand the situation they're in, but they're also not downtrodden by it, if that makes any sense. And so I wonder, actually, so here's the lovely opera that I found. You can totally find this on YouTube. So yeah. Oops. So basically all these people these are the people who live in the apartment building. As I said, there's a bunch of other characters, but Rodolfo and Marcello are the most important. And they all kind of like share this apartment building. And the entire first act is basically them going like, oh yes, isn't everything, life is it sucks right now, but you know, one day we'll be fine. And their landlord comes in and expects them to pay rent. And basically everybody in the room at this point, they're all best friends. They kind of look at the landlord and they look at each other and they go like, you don't got that money though, we poor. And so what is the best solution to do but to get the landlord drunk? So they get the landlord drunk, and the landlord starts musing about his love of chasing women tale, as it were. But he's married, but he only shared that because he was drunk. And so in his embarrassment, he leaves. And he doesn't collect rent because he's so embarrassed about telling these 4 chaps, going like, oh my gosh, I just told my biggest secret to these guys because I was drunk. And so he just straight up leaves, and then everybody in the apartment is like, hey, that took care of our problem. We don't got to pay rent. Whoop! You know what we should do with that rent money that we didn't pay because we didn't have enough of it, but we do have some money? We should go drinking to celebrate the fact that we just, got off of not paying rent. So La Boheme is a tragedy, but it's also really funny. So there you go. So that's what they decide to do. Exactly. That's exactly what they do. Yeah, that's exactly what we're doing in quarantine too. We just are like, we're just gonna go get drunk. So they decide to go off to this cafe and get drunk because they're so pleased with themselves about their little scheme, and they're also really happy about the fact that they just get to live life. And YOLO, right? And that's kind of what they say is YOLO. So yeah, so that's the landlord being drunk. See, I told you this thing is funny. I would suggest finding the opera that has English subtitles, but anyway. So so Marcello is left in the apartment building all alone, and mostly because his friends decide to go off in front of him, and they're like, "Hey, we'll meet you at the bar, bro." And he's like, "Okay, I got a painting to finish. So you guys, I'll be right there. You guys go ahead of me. I'll be fine." Hashtag relatable. So, so these guys leave the apartment building, and Marcello is left. Hold on. Was it Marcello or Rodolfo? Hello, someone save me from myself and my incompetence. I always get these guys mixed up. No, I'm so sorry. I mixed it up. Yes. So everybody leaves, but Rodolfo is left in the apartment building, and Rodolfo is the painter. I'm so sorry. I mix them up all the time. So, anywho, so Rodolfo is left in the apartment building by himself, and he's finishing up his painting. Pretty much, they're yeah, they are. So I just got a message in the chat saying, "Hey, they're all stereotypical male characters in an opera, right?" Kinda, but not really. We're gonna find out that Rodolfo actually has like a heart of gold. So he's really trying hard. He really doesn't have that many flaws about him other than the fact that he's poor. So, but we find out that he's got this really, really gigantic heart in the end. We'll get there. So anyway, Rodolfo is left in the apartment building alone, and he's finishing up a painting, and this woman stumbles in. You can see her right here. That's her. This woman stumbles in, and she says, "Hey, sorry to interrupt your evening, but I kind of live in this apartment building too, and this apartment building sucks. It's drafty as heck. And my candle went out because it's 1830, and electricity. Am I right?" And so they go like, my candle's out, and I kind of run out of matches because guess what? I'm pretty poor as well, and I don't got any matches, and this is my only source of light because 1830s. Am I right? And she goes like, do you have some matches to light this candle? And Rodolfo's like, dang, that's a pretty woman who just came into my apartment building. What am I supposed to do? And so basically for the next 40 minutes, I would say, Rodolfo and this lady, who her name is Mimi, they basically have this cute flirtatiousness all throughout the stage. It gets super cute and annoying that for me, because I've seen La Boheme twice on stage, and every single time I see the scene with them meeting and first talking to each other, I go like, oh my gosh, please kiss already, like, or get off the stage. Like, you guys need to do something. The sexual tension is crazy, and y'all need to do something about it because you've been dancing around the issue for about like 30 minutes now, and hello. So basically, they have this little flirtatious banter, and the interesting thing about Mimi here, so after Rodolfo introduces himself, she then says to him, saying, "Oh yes, they call me Mimi." It's a very interesting character choice to take because nobody really introduces themselves as like, oh, they call me Sarah, they call me whatever. But she does. So we're not given a lot of backstory on Mimi per se, but we get a lot of her character in just that one line. And as much as I personally don't like this aria because I think it's it doesn't matter. I personally don't like Mi Chiamo Mimi, but it does give us a lot of character depth about her. Like, what does she mean by they call her Mimi? Is Mimi not her name? Or has she gone through so much in life that she's trying to reclaim her name in a sort of way. So it's a very interesting character development moment for Mimi, which a lot of people in the audience kind of take for granted because it is a very beautiful aria. But it does give us a lot of depth into Mimi, and the fact that she's willing to open up to somebody. Because again, we don't know much about Mimi's backstory. We don't know. That's up to the actor to decide. So it's a little bit of a subtle hint that maybe Mimi hasn't had the best life, or maybe she has had a great life and she was like from the royal courts and whatever, but that was the label that they put on her was, yes, Mimi is your name. You aren't allowed to be anything else but Mimi. So who knows? Whatever you decide her character is, depending on the actor, whatever the actor's interpretation is, who knows? Maybe she was a royal of someone from high status, and she ran away from that life, and now she's dirt poor because she doesn't know how to do anything. Or maybe she was, a streetwalker, and like that was the name that she decided to give herself because she was so embarrassed of her real name that she is. There's a myriad of different backstories you could give to Mimi, but that's kind of up to the actor's choice, or the singer's choice in this case, and the audience's choice. So Mimi is a very interesting character, even though I personally don't like this aria, but that's just a really personal preference of mine, mostly because I've heard it a lot. So, anywhoozle. So that's Act 1, pretty much. So we get to meet the characters. We meet the two main male characters, and we meet one of the main female characters. There's another one coming up, and she's my favorite character, and we'll get to her in a minute. So we see Mimi. We see Mimi, and there's Pavarotti. Buonasera, good evening. So he's lit her candle now, and she's like, oh, but I forgot my apartment key. Where could it be? And they begin their flirtatious banter. It's adorable. So I did want to point out, like, this scene right here in La Boheme is actually mirrored in Rent. So after Neil deGrasse Tyson gives us his little speech. So this is mirrored in the scene in Rent of the song Got a Light.
Got a light. I know you're shivering. It's nothing.
Baby turned off my heat.
And I'm just
I don't know on my feet.
Would you
Light my candle.
What are you staring at?
Nothing. Your hair in the moonlight. You look familiar. Can you make it?
Just haven't eaten much today. At least the room stopped spinning. Anyway, what?
Nothing. Your smile reminded me
I
of.
always remind people of who is she?
She died. Her name was April.
It's out again.
See, flirtatious banter. It's great. So that is the updated. I don't want to say updated, but the musical theater take of La Boheme in this particular scene. So they condense a lot. Yeah, it's pretty groovy. Also, in Rent, Mimi is actually a slut. She is a streetwalker, and she is addicted to drugs, and everyone in Rent has a terrible life. And Rodolfo, who I forget what his name is in Rent, but he, again, they're all really poor, and he is the person who has the heart of gold still, and he had a girlfriend who died, and so he is very reluctant to have Mimi in his life, and Mimi kind of barges in and goes like, hey, I like you, you sexy, and why don't you come over here? And he basically is like, yeah, okay. Whereas you can tell in La Boheme, they're both very innocent, and so Mimi is not, she's not one of those people who's like, hey, I think you good looking, you come over here. She's very much like, yeah, they call me Mimi, so that's my name. So she has a little bit more, I don't want to say depth to her, because the character in Rent also has a lot of depth, but I think she has a little bit more innocence left to her than the one in Rent. So you can kind of see how these two scenes played back to back with each other are the same, but also radically different in terms of their tones and also their their approaches to the characters. So, anywho, so that is Act 1 of La Boheme, and that is the equivalent in Rent. So, a good experiment to do at home, I think, would be to watch La Boheme and then watch Rent, and then you can see like the complete difference. And actually, funny enough, La Boheme is actually much shorter than Rent is on YouTube. So, Rent's like 2 hours, and La Boheme's only like 2.5 hours, and La Boheme's only 2 hours. So, who says opera is long? Anywho, so on to Act 2. We move on to my favorite character, but she hasn't been introduced yet. So we gotta go to the cafe. So let's see here. We gotta go to the cafe. Yeah. There's a lot of flirting. So much flirting. Oh my gosh, look at all the flirting. All right. Now. So look at this cafe. Oh, there's so many people. They're having a good time. So all of the friends are down in the cafe, and they're spending all of the almost rent money on drinks and having a good time. And then in walks Marcello's old flame, which is my favorite character, and her name is Musetta. And Musetta is everything Mimi is not. Musetta is very out there. She's kind of like the Mimi in Rent, to be honest. She's not a slut per se. She's not a streetwalker, but she is, she knows how to get men. She is very worldly, and she knows how to manipulate men, and she, basically she's one of those women who, she's a gold digger, is essentially what she is. She's a gold digger. And so that's Musetta, and basically every couple months she has a new rich guy on her arm. And so she walks into the cafe and she sees Marcello. And Marcello and Musetta are very much in love, but Musetta has very expensive taste. And so she's like, I don't want to be with no poor boy. I'm going to go find some rich guys. But she actually does love Marcello. So it makes their interaction very saucy. So, I know, it's very, very gasp-inducing, this opera. It's like, so, anywho, so she walks in to the cafe where all the friends are, and she's with her rich old boy, and yes, he's like 70, and she's supposed to be like 21. So she walks in with him, and he's just happy to be there with this really hot young thing, and she walks in, and she sees Marcello, and she's like, oh, he's over there with our friends? Having a good time without me? This is impossible. I cannot have this happen. No. So she decides to step up on these tables and sing a waltz. And basically her waltz says, when I walk down the street, I am the most gorgeous thing, and everybody who's anybody will look at me, because why wouldn't they? And all of their eyes on me like makes me feel amazing. And then at the very end of her aria, she says, and you, specifically talking to Marcello, and you cannot come to terms with what happened in the past, all of the memories that cause you pain, and it makes you want to die. It makes you want to die, is essentially what she says. And she's being very flirtatious here. And it's very easy to make Musetta kind of a quote-unquote bitch. But I really like Musetta because, number one, she's more complex than that, because in her aria, you can have a little turning moment where she, because she repeats the phrase, felice mi fa, mi fa. It makes me happy, it makes me happy. And you can choose in the second time that you sing that to maybe break her walls a little bit, because she's a very guarded character. She likes material things because material things make her safe. She does not like to be too emotional. So she protects her heart through any means necessary. And maybe the second Felice Mi Fa is the moment where she kind of realizes that, hey, maybe all of this attention, maybe all of these things that I have don't actually make me happy, and I miss my man. I miss Marcello. I miss the things that I miss my friends. So you can play it that way, and I choose to personally like to play her that way because that makes her more 3D. That makes her more of a three-dimensional character and less shallow, because I don't believe Musetta is a shallow character. I don't believe Mimi is. I don't believe anybody in La Boheme is very shallow, and I think Musetta can easily be played shallow. So Anywho, so I thought I would sing my favorite aria from La Boheme, which is Quando me vo, Musetta's Waltz, for you. So let me pull up the accompaniment. All right.
Hallo und herzlich willkommen an meinem Kanal. Heute habe ich Lust auf italienische Oper.
Yes,
Auch
indeed.
Musetta, Quando me vo aus La Bohème.
Cercami da capo a piedi. Era saporro la bramosia sottil che dai occhi t'aspetta e dai barresi vezzi intender sa alle occulte
So, das war's.
So there you go. So it's very hard to sing opera sitting in a computer chair. That's why hopefully I will move into a different location where I can stand through the entire time. So, but anyway, so that is Quando me vo. Thank you. It wasn't my best rendition, but hopefully when I move to the new location, if that happens, I'll be able to sing opera properly with proper technique, because as you can tell, I am sitting in a chair and it's very difficult to sing opera sitting down in a computer chair, no less. So, anywho, so that's Musetta, and so she comes in, sings this wonderful aria, and then she waltzes over to her friends, and she just wants to get rid of her 7-year-old sugar daddy, if you want to say it that way, and thank you. And so she tells him to go away, go fix her shoe. Her shoe's too tight. Go find a cobbler. And so he immediately does, because he loves her. He's smitten with her. And so she comes over to her friends and she goes like, "What? You guys just like had a party without me? What the heck?" And they go like, Musetta, we love you. We would never do that without you. We just didn't know where you were." And she's like, that's fair. You know what we should do? We should not be here anymore, because if I remember correctly, like a police siren sounds outside of the cafe, or a military siren is outside of the cafe, and they go like, "Hey, you know what we should do? Not be here!" And they leave. And Musetta, because they actually can't pay the bill, because a guy, one of their friends, lost the money that they were gonna pay the bill with, and so Musetta slyly puts the bill under her sugar daddy's name, and they all secretly leave the cafe, and the sugar daddy comes back and is like, "What happened to Musetta? Oh my gosh, I have a bill now, womp womp." And that's the end of Act 2. So it is definitely a comedy at the beginning. So So that's Act 2, and moving on to Act 3. Act 3 is pretty simple. It's a short act where it's been a couple months later. It's still winter, and Mimi goes up to Rodolfo. So Mimi and Marcello are Mimi and Rodolfo are together, and Marcello and Musetta are together. So these are the two couples in La Boheme. And so Mimi goes up to Marcello. So Mimi goes over to Marcello over here. And she starts talking to him, going like, oh my gosh, Marcello, like, I can't live with Rodolfo anymore. He's insufferable. How could I have fallen in love with him at first sight? What am I to do? And Marcello's comforting her, and then they hear Rodolfo coming. And so Mimi goes and hides, around the corner. And Rodolfo and Marcello start talking. And Rodolfo laments to his best friend Marcello and says, dude, like, I'm worried because Mimi's got this cough, and I think she's coming down with some kind of illness, and I think that it's a serious illness that I, as a very poor painter, am not going to be able to fix. Like, I can't afford for her to go see a doctor and to get medicine. And so Marcello goes like, oh man, but why are you treating her so badly? And Rodolfo says, well, I'm treating her badly so that she'll leave me, so that she can go find someone richer, so that he can take care of her. So I'm actually being mean to her to save her life because I'm not good enough for her. And Marcello is like, oh dude, that's really sweet. But you know what? And Mimi, out of her hiding place, comes in and goes like, what? Rodolfo, you did all of this for me? You treated me poorly so that I could know that you were poor and you couldn't take care of me? What? And Marcello is like, I see you two got things to talk about. I'm out. And so he leaves. And Mimi and Rodolfo then have this beautiful duet where they agree, where everything kind of comes out in the open, and in true relationship fashion, they finally talk about what's been bothering them for the past couple months. And so they decide to break up because Mimi needs to go find somebody who can take care of her in terms of financially, because Rodolfo cannot afford to send her to a doctor for her scary cough, which is just getting worse and worse by the day, and they can't do anything about it because Rodolfo can't pay for the medicine. And so they decide to break up at the end of Act 3, but not because they want to, but because Mimi needs to go find somebody who can help pay for her medicine. So Act 4 rolls around, and it's been a couple months, and both Marcello and Rodolfo are back in their really crappy apartment, and they're lamenting about the fact of how their ladies have moved on without them, and that now Mimi has gone off, and Rodolfo has seen her with like a really looking like a princess dressed in these gowns. And of course Marcello and Musetta have broken up again. They're on and off again relationship, and Musetta has been seen with another rich count. So basically they're back at square one. And all of a sudden during their lamenting about like, yeah, we had it good for a couple months. Like, life isn't too bad. Life will get better. When I make it big with my paintings, blah, 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 blah. Who should burst in but Musetta bursts into that apartment building, and she's like, oh my gosh, you guys, guess who I just found? Like, she comes up to me, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And the two boys are like, calm down, lady, calm down. First of all, why are you here? Second of all, what's going on? And Musetta pulls up Mimi, and she's like, guys, she's sick. And Mimi came to me, Musetta, and was like, Musetta, you gotta help me find Rodolfo because I'm dying, and I just want to see him again because he's the most important thing in the whole world to me, and I have to see him again. And so Musetta's like, you know what? I was about to reunite with Marcello again anyway. You got a deal, girlfriend, because I'm your friend and I love you. So Musetta carries Mimi, or helps carry Mimi, back to the apartment building, and Mimi is pale. She is dying. And so the opera doesn't really explain what she's dying of, but it is clear that maybe she might be dying of like tuberculosis or something because she just has this really nasty cough. So, so the friends lie her down on the couch, and Mimi suddenly starts feeling better because she's in the presence of her love, Rodolfo. And so they start singing, and then Musetta's like, "What? She needs medicine." And so they take some of Mimi's earrings and really fancy clothing, and they go off to try and find this medicine. So Musetta and Marcello both like look at each other and go like, "We've been stupid. Let's be together again." And they leave to go find medicine for Mimi. But while they're gone, Mimi looks at Rodolfo. They sing a beautiful duet, and Mimi dies right there on the couch in Rodolfo's arms. And they admit that they loved each other and they should have just stayed together. And what they had was amazing and really good. Hence, it's only been like half a year, but whatevs, it's true love. So, anyway, Mimi's dead. So Mimi dies with Rodolfo. So Rodolfo's there holding Mimi on the couch, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, Mimi, I'm so glad you came back to me. I love you. I love you." And then both Musetta and Marcello come back, and they see what's going on, and all of the other friends come in, and they sort of just gasp and gather around Rodolfo and Mimi, and they put their hands on Rodolfo, and that's the end of the opera. So let me see if I can find it really quickly of Mimi dying. Look at her die. So my beautiful Mimi. So she's dying of tuberculosis. Oh, she's dying. Oh, she's dying. She died. It takes her a long time to die, guys. I'm telling you. Yeah, so Musetta's here with the medicine, like trying to help her. Then I think this is the moment where she dies. So this is like her saying like, "I want to go to sleep. It's finally time." Oh, she's dead. Oh, she's dead. They don't know she's dead yet. He comes back to her bedside and is like, "No, Mimi, why?" And that's how the opera ends. And you got a nice slow pan out so you can see the rest of the so here are the rest of the characters standing there, acknowledging the fact that Mimi has just died. And that's the end of the opera. So, essentially, that is La Boheme. A very, very short and condensed version of it. But that is one of Puccini's most famous operas. Again, it was turned into a musical called Rent, which I'm pretty sure you're more familiar with. And so if you ever get a chance to see it, it is one of the more famous operas, and so it is performed a lot. Now hopefully you won't be as intimidated to go see it, because now you know the story, you know the characters a little bit better, you know what to look out for, some of the more comedic aspects of the opera. So hopefully you go see it whenever it comes around next. So yeah. So that's La Boheme. Also go see Rent, because Rent is awesome, and you probably know Rent by Seasons of Love. So and Rent is essentially musical theater. La Boheme is what it is. So yeah, we got Seasons of Love. Which I will say, so I actually haven't seen Rent, which is upsetting. So, but I know that Rent kind of takes the themes of La Boheme and kind of makes them their own. So I know that Rent kind of ends a little bit more like sad, but also a little bit more uplifting because they do end with Seasons of Love, where we all have a limited time on this earth, so we should count our blessings in love and all of the things that we cherish, which essentially is kind of the sentiment of La Boheme if you think about it. So, anywho, so that has been Theatrical Opera Thursdays. And I don't know. I don't think I'm gonna sing Seasons of Love because it's so jarring in terms of the genres. But so that has been Theatrical Opera Thursdays, and so I hope you've enjoyed this little trip into La Boheme with me. Even though I didn't sing Quando Membo the best because I am sitting in the computer chair, hopefully I will remedy that in the future where I can actually stand and do these quarantine karaoke's. So, I hope you have enjoyed. Oh my gosh, I need to change positions really quick. Ow! So I hope you have enjoyed. I think next week for Theatrical Opera Thursdays, I might move on to Mozart. Because one of my favorite Mozart arias, Batti Batti, or I could do the Magic Flute. I might do the Magic Flute because the Magic Flute's very fun. And you guys probably all know the Magic Flute as the one that has the ridiculous high aria part, like. That's where that song comes from. So I might do the Magic Flute next week, just as a quick run through. So, anyway, so that has been Theatrical Opera Thursdays. Again, that's like the 5th time I've said it, but just so you know. So I hope you've enjoyed La Boheme. I will sing Quando Manvo next week and do a very quick run through like I did this week with Senza Mama from Puccini's Suor Angelica. So I think we'll move on from Puccini since we've done 2 Puccini operas, and we'll go on to Mozart, which is probably one of the most famous composers of opera. So we might do that. We might do something else. Who knows? But I'm pretty sure I might talk about the Magic Flute next week. So again, if at any point during the stream you have felt so moved to donate, you have my PayPal and my Venmo. But if you're like me and you're also pretty much struggling, don't worry about donations. You can actually help me out a lot if you subscribe to my YouTube channel right down here. Or if you're watching this on Twitch, if you could follow my Twitch channel and subscribe, that also is an amazing way to help me out by subscribing and following me. So subscribe on YouTube, follow and subscribe on Twitch. And I will see you guys tomorrow for Fun Fridays, which I will be playing some Twitch Sings. So tomorrow is only exclusively on Twitch because I have yet to figure out how to get Twitch Sings to work on a YouTube stream. So hopefully I will figure out the YouTube stream before tomorrow, but if not, tomorrow is exclusively on Twitch. So please remember that tomorrow, Fun Fridays for Twitch Sings is exclusively on my Twitch channel, which is twitch.tv/Sarah_Lonsert. I will put all of that on all of my social media pages so that you can see it. So on my Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So you will not miss out, but it's only on Twitter for tomorrow, or it's only on Twitch for tomorrow because I'm still playing Twitch Sings. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have enjoyed Theatrical Opera Thursdays. I know these are more of a podcast than karaoke, but you know, it's more educational. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed, and I will see you all tomorrow for Twitch Sings right on my Twitch channel at 6 p.m. Bye.